The Russian president's State of the Nation speech on Thursday ratcheted up the tensions. His threats should not worry the globe. Hello, everyone. Read on to find out why Macron is freaking out over Putin's savage threat to NATO in today's video. In response to Western military deployments within striking distance of Russia, President Vladimir Putin has threatened nuclear retaliation. Before we continue, I want to remind everyone who is new to this channel to subscribe so they don't miss any of the future informative videos we upload. He echoed the remarks made by Putin ally and former Russian Prime Minister and President Dmitry Medvedev in Thursday's State of the Nation speech. Medvedev was a senior security officer throughout the crisis in Ukraine. Medvedev has sworn at nuclear war and slammed Western governments and leaders in a number of social media posts. After French President Emmanuel Macron's Monday remarks, Putin has ramped up his reaction, claiming that the deployment of European soldiers to Ukraine as Putin made his threats known during his meticulously staged and broadcast yearly national speech, using statements and sound bites that the Russian media would most certainly use for days to discuss and repeat. Some Western countries have hinted at the prospect of deploying troops to Ukraine. Regarding possible interventionists, Putin warned on Thursday that even more catastrophic repercussions will ensue. At long last, they should be aware that we possess weapons that can accurately target targets throughout the nation. The West's incessant talk of nuclear war and its inevitable destruction is the only plausible explanation for all of its recent actions. Hypersonic missiles of the next generation and more tactical nuclear warheads than any Western nation are part of Moscow's nuclear arsenal, which is the biggest in the world. These days, it's Putin who sets the obvious limit when it comes to the use of weaponry. Rumor has it that Macron had questioned Putin about the readiness of Moscow to deploy nuclear weapons, according to Kushkush. Status quo. According to Boris Bondarev, a former top Russian diplomat who opposed Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Putin's foreboding address didn't add anything new. Similar to his previous scare tactics, Putin was projecting his own unfulfilled Western goals into the warnings. Bondarev, who was employed at the UN headquarters in Geneva until 2022, claims that this was certainly not the first instance of Moscow displaying its menacing side in a confrontation with the US and Europe. While ranting against American imperialism and pledging further interventions, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev stomped his foot on the platform at the UN headquarters in New York in 1960. Khrushchev almost caused a nuclear Armageddon 2 years later when he started the Caribbean Missile Crisis. Soviet leaders in the 70s and 80s persistently raised the prospect of nuclear war until Gorbachev enacted his Perestroika reforms, which satisfied Western concerns but doomed the user. When tensions rose in Ukraine, the Kremlin lifted restrictions on nuclear weapons on its own. There are concerns that this action would trigger a new weapons race, according to Washington. It was in 2022 that Putin made this announcement on the possibility of a nuclear attack. There has never been a case of Putin's leadership threatening nuclear war in an effort to deter Western nations from sending military assistance to Ukraine. The head of the Central Asia Due Diligence Committee, Alisher Ilkov, came to certify this. As reported by Al Jazeera by a London-based Think organization, the alarm was traditionally raised by Medvedev and other propagandists. He informed reporters that Putin would now make the announcement. According to Ilov, Putin was annoyed not by Macron's assertion but by Ukraine's successful attacks on airfields, fuel depots, warships, and combat aircraft deep into Russia's seized regions. This far, Western countries have. According to him, the crisis has been escalated by the West by giving Ukraine with more effective weaponry, even though the Kremlin has warned against it. The diminished military and industrial strength of Russia makes an all-out conflict unsustainable, so Putin is likely to steer clear of a frontal confrontation with NATO. He says the power imbalance between the two sides is too great throughout the conflict. I take great pleasure in elaborating on the fact that Putin is completely bankrupt in his conflict with the West. He is well aware of this and refuses to budge from his fear tactics. The story told by the widow of Russia's most vocal opposition leader shed light on Putin's threat-making and follow-through techniques. Dealing with this creature is more like dealing with a savage beast than a politician. Vladimir Putin is the head of a criminal organization. In a video posted on Wednesday, Julia Navalnya, whose husband Alexei Navalny passed away on February 16th in an Arctic prison, said that it is impossible to harm Putin with another set of punishments or resolutions that are similar to the ones that have arrived before. The assumption that he has beliefs, morality, and regulations will not win him over, she said during his speech. As the conflict enters its third year, Putin seems to downplay his involvement. While listening to Putin speak, I took note of his claim that Russia was not the aggressor. According to Al Jazeera, Ivar Dale, a senior policy consultant at the Norwegian Helsinki Committee, a human rights organization, felt he needed to weigh the dangers, try it out, and then realize he had failed. All forces should be pulled out of Ukraine immediately, and the fear of nuclear war against innocent people must end. The West should send NATO forces to aid Ukraine, according to Dale, and Putin's blackmail is not his first, and certainly will not be his last. An expert in Eastern Europe has said that the presence of Western soldiers in Ukraine would undoubtedly constitute a further crossing of red lines. It has been said by Nikolai Metrov, one German academic, Nikolai Metrov of Bremen University, has speculated that the presence of Western troops in Ukraine may be good for the nation as it would free up resources. War between Russia and NATO was predicted by the Kremlin to Kyiv's European allies during a February 26 summit of continental leaders in Paris, claiming that deploying soldiers to fight in Ukraine would definitely lead to war. With the formation of a coalition to provide Ukraine with medium and long-range missiles and bombs to bolster Kyiv's endeavors to withstand Russia's invasion, members agreed to do more quickly, according to French President Emmanuel Macron. "We should not rule out any means to achieve our goal," Macron said at a news conference, even if there was no unanimity on deploying European foot troops to Ukraine. In such conflict, Russia will lose. In response to an inquiry over Macron's comments, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Medvedev said on February 27th that the talk of some NATO nations deploying contingents to Ukraine is a significant development. While the U.S. has said it would not be sending foot soldiers to Ukraine, several countries have denied being involved, including Germany, the UK, Spain, Poland, and the SEC Republic. Reporters were informed by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who was present at the Paris summit, that the Allies had concluded that no European or NATO state would send troops to Ukraine. Polish President Donald Tusk and his Chinese colleague Peter Fiala both denied that their administrations were contemplating such a move. Our support pathways, which we began following Russia's assault, should be further developed, in my opinion. At a press conference with Tusk, Fiala said, "I believe we don't need to open some other methods or ways." He continued by saying that Poland has no intention of sending soldiers to the eastern Ukrainian region. Concerning this matter, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg to the Associated Press on February 27th that, although NATO partners are offering Ukraine extraordinary assistance, there are no plans to send NATO combat forces to Ukraine. Stephanie Seur, France's foreign minister, attempted to clarify President Macron's remarks by stating that Macron planned to deploy soldiers for specialized tasks such as mine clearing, on-site weapon manufacture, and cyber protection. In his address to French lawmakers, Seur warned that this may call for a military presence short of open hostilities. Although he did so virtually at the Paris gathering, Zelensky nonetheless pleaded with European leaders to prevent Russian President Vladimir Putin from erasing our accomplishments and expanding his hostility to other countries. With its Western friends, especially the United States, relying on modern weapons and ammunition supplies, Ukraine is able to weather the more brutal attacks by Russian troops. These forces have more numbers, but they are outgunned and outmaneuvered. Ukrainian forces have been compelled to withdraw from many defensive positions in the east as a result of the recent postponement of a crucial $61 billion military assistance proposal from the U.S. by the House of Representatives, which is controlled by the Republic. President Joe Biden of the United States addressed a meeting of influential lawmakers at the White House, highlighting the dire repercussions that would ensue from the non-provision of military assistance to Ukraine. This meeting strengthened his resolve to release the frozen aid and prevent a government shutdown as the deadline for an appropriations bill, which is fast approaching, March 1st, in Ukraine. At the meeting, Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris expressed their belief that the need was urgent. On a daily basis, inactivity in Ukraine has terrible consequences. After that, he concluded today's video house. Despite controlling a slim Republican majority in the House, Speaker Mike Johnson, a favorite of U.S. President Donald Trump, has refused to hold a vote on the legislation, which includes the extradition of Ukraine. For more videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to our channel and give the video a thumbs up. See you all soon. I appreciate you watching.